Understand that they really are messengers. There's no judgment towards any of these emotions. They're just arriving to us as messengers.
It's like going to Thanksgiving dinner. You eat and eat and eat, and then you get so full on that one day that your body just feels so overwhelmed. But what if you knew that you could stop before you got to that fullness?
Trapped emotions are energy. It's a form of energy, whether it's good or bad. It's energy. And we name what that energy is, whether that's a trauma, whether that's a pattern, but essentially it's an energy.
A lot of the common signs that I see aren't the obvious things like depression, anxiety, the big things. It's the people pleasing, the imposter syndrome, negative self-talk, the self-doubt, the self-criticism. Those things are not natural to us.
We don't recognize what a trauma response is. We've marginalized it and we've put it in, oh, this is me easygoing. This is me just like having, no worries. Everything's fine. And then all of a sudden, everything's not fine.
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's discussion. You may have been watching our videos, but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have gained value from our conversations, from our channel, it would be so appreciated for us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now and even give us a like. What that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it also allows us to bring in even more guests for you to listen to. And you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get started on today's wonderful panel discussion. Welcome to our Ignite Your Inner Power Conversations that Transform panel discussions. My name's Sophia from Sacred You. With us today are these beautiful panelists of women who are experts in their field, who have come to chat to you and share their passion on breaking free, reclaiming peace from emotional chains. And in particular, I would like to introduce the facilitator of today's panel, the beautiful Sheila Marina. Sheila, thank you so much for offering your time to facilitate this wonderful conversation with these amazing women. I'm going to hand it over to you now, and I shall return at the end. Have a beautiful conversation, and thank you.
Thank you too, Sophia. Welcome, everybody. This has been a real big honor for me to be able to facilitate another one of these panel discussions. And I mentioned before, I am an emotion code practitioner, and I've been operating that out of my home in Ontario, Canada, for the last 3 years now. And I have noticed some hugely profound changes in the clients that come through and that I work with. And so at the beginning, I'd like for all of us to just go around and introduce ourselves and maybe say if we have any experience whatsoever with trapped emotions or with the emotion code using the chart. And then we'll get on to the questions. Tawana, can we start with you?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I am Tawana Yvette. I'm a spiritual strategist, trauma recovery facilitator, public best-selling author, and inspirational speaker. I help women heal their generational trauma and find their purpose and step into their power. So yes, I deal a lot with trapped emotions and getting those up and out because I work through the chakra system. And yes, that's who I am. That's what I do. So thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Very good. And Leslie, how about you?
I'm Leslie Nace, and I am a transition catalyst. I do intuitive coaching with people, and it's the guiding people to cast rainbows in the moonlight. It sounds airy fairy, but in some ways it's like those bright, shiny things that we want are sometimes covered in that moonlight that we walk through. And so emotional codes and in dealing with those trapped emotions, those patterns, those things that keep you spiraling round and round are definitely part of the work that I do to help people launch them into what they want to transition to.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing. Okay, and Michelle, how about you?
Yeah, hello. I'm Michelle Holling Brooks, and I am a healing and wellness practitioner and coach and teacher. I have a lot of different modalities under my belt, but most of them are all trauma informed and based in that ability to bring somatics parks work into those different modalities, from Eden energy medicine, Reiki, motion stuff, and code and all that good stuff in there, but really opening up and helping people start to fill that circle. I think that's the one really beautiful thing about the emotion code, is it starts to help people be able to just start to name things, and naming is taming, and I love that. And so I love helping clients start to learn how to make sense of their system and start to feel empowered that they can dialogue with it, befriend it, and move through it, versus seeing it as something that grabs the wheel and drives them off the cliff. So I love helping clients discover that inner healer within them.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing. And then how about you, Denise?
Yeah, I work or help or share with people how to self-heal and really come back to their body and to really know the intricacies of themselves to heal. And I actually started, my first ever modality was emotion code. So that's just flowed through a lot of what I do. And I really love the basis of it, that it helps people really come back to name where they are with themselves in their body instead of outside of themselves. So, yeah. And so I love self-healing, because we all can do it. Yeah.
That's excellent. It sounds like we're all of like minds here. And our goal really is to just help others to really heal in loving ways. And so just thinking about some of the questions, these common signs that someone might be carrying trapped emotions. And if you notice that the common signs, what might they be, and how do these trapped emotions usually affect people in their daily life? Tawana, did you want to comment on
Absolutely.
that? Some common signs?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of the common signs that I see aren't the obvious things like depression, anxiety, the big things. It's the people pleasing. It's the the imposter syndrome. That's what I was looking for. It's the negative self-talk. It's the self-doubt, the self-criticism. That's how you know that there is trauma stuck in the body. Those things are not natural to us. So we are naturally confident, loving, playful people, and society, family, whatever it was that caused your trauma, places these things upon us. And then we start adapting to living with the trauma. So, for example, I went through a great deal of trauma as a child, and I learned how to dissociate like this. I could step out of my body like that, and I could look at myself from across the room outside of my body. So that's one of the things you would look for if I was talking to a client. Do you dissociate? What's dissociating? When you leave your body, because it's not safe where you are. You don't feel safe. And that's another one. People don't feel safe.
So that can really have an impact on their daily life for sure. And like you said, without even realizing it, people pleasing is something that a lot of people may not recognize as a trauma response. And I'm sure most of our listeners as well, and those of us in the room. Yes. And how about you, Michelle? What do you find some common signs with your clients, and how it impacts their daily life that they may be having trapped emotions?
I think I love to piggyback off of and build off of what Tuana was saying, is when we don't recognize what a trauma response is. we've marginalized it and we've put it in, oh, this is me easygoing, this is me just like having no worries, everything's fine. And then all of a sudden everything's not fine. That powder keg has gone as far as it can go. And most of the time with my clients, it's not that it goes outward, it goes inward. And so that harsh inner critic, the zero level of allowing themselves to try, to play, to ask for help, all of these are signs that we have trapped emotions within us because maybe we're afraid to look weak or to look sad because some part of us has a wound around that where we were judged or anything like that. So one of the very first things that I think is kindness is to start to recognize that our emotional waves that are going through us are not just random. They are always messengers for parts of us that are dissociated, that are exiled, that are pushed out to the side and marginalized within ourselves. And then society really doesn't help us out because it tells us to keep poo-pooing them. Oh, it's going to be okay. You're just get a new mindset hack, get to do this, get to do that. And we can even trick our nervous system. We can do a great, amazing breath works and allow ourselves to hone back in, but we can't hold it. And then one thing comes in and it's our whole system like sliders gets pulled apart. And it's, yeah, just like Tawana just said, it's like it explodes. And so I think understanding and normalizing trauma responses, like really starting to help people identify, like, why did I just say yes there? I didn't want to say yes. Or actually, I really wanted to say yes to that thing. And instead, I said, oh, no, let Sally Joe do it. And it's these little ways that we've been conditioned to step out of ourselves, to dissociate, like she was talking about. And how can we start to feel that? Where do we feel emotions? The messenger of our emotions is our body. So like what Denise was saying, it's in here. It's not in our mind, it's in our body. So step one is if you don't feel connected or you feel like a little balloon floating beside your body, like Tawana was talking about, that's a great way to start to recognize that there is so much congestion held in this beautiful vessel of ours, that how can we start to give a voice to that? But we have fear, we have protective parts of us that really think if we open that, it's like the door that you got to keep shut or the dam that you got to hold back. It's if we poke one hole or we let one little emotion out, it's game over. And so bringing some safety into the system is definitely needed so that we gain our trust and start to feel that we can work with those emotions versus be overtaken by them.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. And just to, understand that they really are messengers, that there's no judgment towards any of these emotions. They're just arriving to us as messengers. And so thank you so much for sharing with that. Yeah. And then Leslie, when you do your intuitive coaching with clients, do you notice some common signs that they may be having a trapped emotion and how it might impact their life?
Yes. And part of the way that I do that is I use a variety of metaphysical tools that have been out there and commonly used from people, such as your astrology signs or your moon phases where you are there. Numerology is another one. Oracle cards are very big. And the reason I use these to do a portfolio is that I put together parts of those before I meet with the client so that when I'm meeting with the client, I have an idea, especially when I talk about the phase of the moon, because it's a 2.5-year cycle, that emotionally I can see, because that's very much about your emotions, where someone's at. So when I'm listening to them and some of the common things, most people know that who come to me, there's something else out there for me. I know it. I feel it. I don't know how to get there. And then they'll start saying something like, I'm not worthy, is that big one. Scarcity is another one. That fear of, if I leave this, what can I go to? And just like my other contestants, the panelists have said here, it's like those are the emotions that are trapped. Those are the cycles and patterns that you're looking for, because I'm not looking to fix anything by the tools that I use. I'm looking to hold that space for the client then. And that's what's so great about the emotion codes. That was the beginning for me understanding somatically how we hold things in our bodies, and to then teach someone to identify their own body, because they've been looking outside to make themselves feel better for so long that they don't know how to be in touch. I had a wonderful conversation with someone who said, it's like going to Thanksgiving dinner. You eat and eat, and then you get so full on that one day that your body just feels so overwhelmed. But what if you knew that you could stop before you got to that fullness, that you understood what was happening before you tripped into that? And that's true. If people start to understand, then it doesn't explode on them. They have more capacity, and that's what we're teaching people, I believe. And others may see it a different way, but to gain more capacity within their body to hold more space so that they can, oh, that's why I've done this. I get that. Now I understand how I can move differently in this world. And the emotion codes help with that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's wonderful that you prepare in advance and get the little portfolio, their portfolio going using the planetary alignment. And it's very helpful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And then how about you, Denise? What are some common signs that your clients that you notice that they might be carrying trapped emotions and how it affects their daily life without even realizing it?
Yeah, I'd really like to bring it back to the essence of trapped emotions or energy. It's a form of energy, whether it's good or bad. It's energy. And we name what that energy is, whether that's a trauma, whether that's a pattern, but essentially it's an energy. So how we're taking everything in is by energy, and we put an expectation on it. And the expectation is of how we've grown up. And then we take that expectation and we live that out. And when we're living it out, it could be tiredness, it could be we're anxious, we're all these things that impact our lives incredibly. And we're not asking how I'm actually feeling. When the questions to ourselves is asking how we feel. And that's part of our work, is that we come back and help people and share with people how just questioning ourselves. Because we ask all our clients, how do you feel? What's this mean to you? What's that doing for you? So it's actually, which I love doing with the people that I share with, is to show them how to come back to themselves and ask those vital questions, because it's energy in and energy out, and they can come to us and seek what they need, but then they have to go home. And if they're not doing that themselves, then they get lost again, and then they're back to square one again. So it's about thinking about everything is energy, emotion code. It's an energy. It's an energy that we have all these words for, and all these things that help us create and discreate the narrative that we already have, and create new narratives for ourselves, and to really open ourselves up to see and hold ourselves in such love. Because what we do is we hold ourselves in the expectation of everything else in our life, instead of holding ourselves in the love and compassion of who we are, and really leading from that space. And we all teach our clients how to do that, or show or share, which is such a beautiful thing of coming back to ourselves. And it starts with questioning ourselves, the energy of questioning, and that changing that narrative, and really feeling. I always say, to heal, we've got to feel, and hold ourselves in love and compassion, and feel. Hold ourselves in love and compassion and feel, because we haven't been taught to feel the whole spectrum of our emotions. We've got a pack some away because we weren't allowed to feel it. But yet it's showing us that we can feel the full spectrum of our sadness, and no matter where we are and when we are.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That loving compassion makes such a huge difference on the way that we speak to ourselves. And I'm really glad that you were able to share that with us. And so thank you, everyone. This has been really wonderful. And just getting very specific now, if any one of us can think of a specific, like a powerful example or a story of someone in particular, maybe one of your clients, someone that you know about that experienced a transformation after releasing the trapped emotions. And if you have experience with using the emotion code specifically, what was their breakthrough moment with that? And if you don't have experience with using the emotion code specifically, completely fine, because that we're all helping people with their emotions, regardless of how we move forward with it. So just a powerful example, a story that kind of would really help others to hear, just to know that this kind of healing is very possible. And here's how. Here's a specific example of someone who received the benefits. So yeah, we'll just go around in the same order again. Tawana, did you want to share something there?
Absolutely. I have a client who I have known for 21 years. We raised our kids together and then separated because our oldest is 32 and my youngest is 24. And so we lost touch for a little while after the kids got older and went to high school and all of that stuff. And we've gotten back in touch. She asked me would I be her coach, and of course I said yes. She's experiencing some of the things I've been through in the last few years. So she sends me little voice notes and she'll go, I just want to let you know I'm in the car and I'm cursing you out right now because you were right about that emotion that I needed to let go of. And now I don't feel it anymore. And now I'm not behaving like I used to. And now I just find myself acting logical. And this isn't normal. So I'm cursing you out. And it's the funniest thing in the world. But
Yeah.
I got her to release anger.
Mm.
For her, it was anger. She did
Mm.
not realize how angry she was, how much anger had taken over her body, and how anger then controlled her. She led with anger. And so once we went back far enough in that, I call it the trunk, the old school Foot Locker trunks in the back of the subconscious, and we put cinder blocks and clothes and try to make it look pretty over the trauma. But once she realized that it was the anger, it was like watching the light bulbs come on in her eyes. Like it was a magnificent moment, very special. I was very proud of her, so honored to be there, to witness this expression, this removal, this release of that trauma, because her anger stemmed from trauma. So this release of that trauma that had held her hostage for 40 something years. And yeah, I look forward to my little voice notes going, I'm cursing you out right now because a light bulb moment just happened and now I'm connecting this to this. And I just want to let you know I'm mad at you, but I love you. Yeah, that's my little funny story about my client.
Oh, that's lovely and so remarkable. It's such a small world, eh? How when you reconnect with someone that you've known so clearly for so long, and then just to be able to help that person as the kids are growing up and we're all friending each other, we can't know what the future could possibly hold, and how what a wonderful service that you were able to provide for her. And yeah, that's fantastic. And so same for you, Michelle. Can you think of an example that specifically with one of your clients?
Yeah, I was like filing through the file cabinet to find like one that was just specifically emotion code. And because I blend everything together, it was a little difficult. But Tawana, when you were talking, and it's so inherent in me, like I can see the chart and I can go through and quickly test it on my own to be like, is my intuition checking it right? And so it's something in that embody code or something that I very quickly just always internally bring to my sessions. But I think building off of Tawana's, that anger emotion is such a tricky one because it's so high voltage. We have so many like protectors, like 10,000 soldiers there to try to help us not touch what that anger is up to, and definitely not touch who that anger is a messenger for, the hurt parts of us that are behind us, that junk in the trunk, so to speak. And one client, I have to bring the horses in. Sheila, you knew I was going to do it. So the horses, I work also with equine partnered psychotherapy out here at our program. And this particular one was on the coaching side. So I do equine partner coaching and psychotherapy. And this is one that she's given me permission to share her story. And it's actually in my upcoming second book, Trauma Informed Enlightenment, that's coming out here shortly. But I'm very excited about it. It's so cool. It's an oracle deck too, Leslie. It has an oracle deck with it. It's so fun. But this whole chapter is dedicated to working with emotions and befriending them through helping the mind see them not as messengers. She was a soldier. She was active duty for years and years. She was amazing at that job. And when she retired, she went into being a person that was an advocate for them. She also had an immense amount of trauma, including military trauma that happened in there from military sexual assault, PTSD, and combat PTSD. So she had a lot going on. She had worked a lot of time with an amazing treatment team and therapists, but there was a disconnect happening. She could understand it, she could see it, but she was in soldier mode. So she would say, this is my trauma. Boom, boom. Here's my thoughts. Boom, boom. Here's my. There was just this huge disconnect. And she got referred to me for a 6-month program out here to really unbridle that true self and to start to work with them. And she wanted to work with the horses because she had done all the other stuff. She wasn't 100% sure about the woo-woo stuff. So she was like, I'll do the horses. It's like, sure, it's all the same thing, but yeah, let's go over there because it's all energy, like Denise said. And she really befriended this little horse named Coco Pup. She's a little tri-color pony. She's super cute. So she's like black and white and brown. And she's little, like one of the like mystic of Chinkatink wild horses. She wasn't from there, but she was another wild pony. And so she had been rounded up when she was probably around 2 years old, sold. And so she herself had a lot of trauma. She was ripped from her birth family and sold to people who just didn't know. They didn't understand. They didn't get it. They didn't know how to work with a. So she was then seized. I was the foster fail mom that took her and started to work with her and help her find her voice again. Side note, emotion code was huge with her, but we'll leave that alone because we're talking about humans, not animals. But it was a big impact on her because we were able to work through a lot of things with her through that. But she picks her clients, and her clients are the ones that have a lot of trauma, a lot of hurt, but aren't willing to meet it. Because that was like her when we first came to her, you couldn't touch her, you couldn't get near her. And actually, if you let her into space, it was too disorienting for her, and she would hurt herself. And so it was a long process. And she picks those same clients that are so trapped in the back of their system, and they're like whirling, bucking horses, but they're all ducky on the outside. And she loved Coco, and Coco would mirror her and be with her, but 10 feet always had to stay between them. And this one particular session, we'll call her Jill, because that's the name she gave me permission to use in the book. That's not her name. But Jill was like, she had enough. She didn't understand why Coco wasn't coming to her and bridging that gap. I'm fair to her. I'm just to her. I've been kind to her. I've never hurt her. I'm not the person who hurt her. Why is she being mean to me? You can see what she was saying, right? All of these things. And I was like, I don't know. Then all of a sudden, Jill exploded. That anger that Tuano's came out, and she just threw the brush down. She was like, I am mad. I am this. I am that. She started cussing up a storm, this, that, and the other, stomping. And Coco just stayed 10 feet away from her, looking straight at her. She didn't run. She didn't get upset. She didn't do anything. I did the same thing. I just stood right where I was. We held that space that Leslie was talking about, Denise talking about, Tuana, like all of us. And together, Coco and I just started to breathe. And she went huge. And then eventually she went down to the ground and she was just banging on the ground, just crying. Why won't they love me? I didn't do anything to them. All those hurt pieces that had a right to be angry, right? She had a right to have this anger that needed a voice. It needed to be seen. And eventually she got up, she wiped her tears from her eyes. She realized that she lost, quote, control. And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Sorry for what?" She's, "Oh, I scared the horse." And I'm like, "She's not scared. She's right there. She hasn't moved. I'm right here. We haven't moved. You haven't hurt either of us." And I said, "Anything else?" And she was like, "I just want something to love me." And I was like, "Do you love you?" And she's, "I think so, but I don't know." And in that moment, Coco closed the gap. Coco came and said hi to her. And she was able to touch and to be with her. And she was able to let me touch her. And the soldier finally was put to rest. And the heart was finally able to come out. But she had to be that soldier for years and years. And so that's like the emotions. They're afraid of that. They're afraid of that explosion. Will somebody make it through it? Will I hurt somebody with my emotions? And when we find beautiful practitioners that can help hold that space for us in a loving, beautiful way, we can help move in it, through it, and out, where that soldier can finally get put down its weapons, put down its arms, and come home. So that's like an emotion. Trust me, while I was sitting there breathing, I was doing the emotion count in my head, tracking the different things with it and working the different and just breathing and being with her because her body knew where it needed to go and it also knew how to come out. We didn't have to do that. We just had to hold the space and trust her body. And it did it.
Fantastic. That's a wonderful story. She's very fortunate to have Coco and you to provide that space for her. I love how once she finally let it all go, Coco moved in. That's fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I'm glad you brought the horses in. I was hoping you would. Thank you. And how about you, Leslie? Do you have a specific example? I'd love to hear.
I do. And I have to say that she came in as one of my intuitive animal healing clients. And I didn't think about that in particular because I was thinking of a certain incident that happened. She did contact me to help her with a dog that she'd gotten from the Middle East and a lot of trauma to that whole piece and how she worked calmly through it. But the biggest thing for her was actually when this dog passed suddenly. And it was the first time that she could say, "I'm really having a hard time. Can you work with me now?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I can." And it was like a relief because the trust for her came through what I helped her through with her dog. And so that kind of trust was like there. And she's a business person who said, "I'm not doing this family business anymore. I really want to go into actually counseling. I'm going to study on this." And then what happened to her in particular was there's a certain time of year that as a child, she would get depressed. And it was the time of vacation when everybody else was like, "I'm so excited. We're going here, we're going there." For her, it was like, "I have to stay home. I have to be home during this time." And the mental emotional abuse that was happening to her, she would shut down. And as an adult, she carried some of that in in her body, and she was still shutting down at those times. She was coming off of medication that she had been put on, and she felt like she never had the right kind of therapist to help her through any of this time. And I asked her one day when I knew that she had been silent and not contacting me like she was. So I asked her, "I don't know where you are, but do you feel strong enough to call me. And a day or two went by and she called. She says, I'm on the floor. I can't move. And I don't know if I can talk. So it's like everything else, like Michelle said. So you're going through everything you can in your head, you're doing energetically to feel where they're at, to hold that space again for them. And I said, then all you need to do is breathe. And it was over time. Now that one call, all she did was breathe. And then she'd call again. She'd be like, okay, I'm breathing, but now I am feeling this pain. It is in the right side on my ribs. I have never felt this pain before. And as we went through what that pain and through all the questions and what was going on with her, and she started to shift and change that, her heart started to break and it broke open. And I always remember the most important thing I remember about the emotion codes is the wall in front of the heart and how she had put a wall in front of her heart. And why it broke open at that time was she said, my dog was the first time I ever felt love from anything in this life ever before. And that was what helped her not only grieve, but open up her heart to be ready to get another dog to share her life and to get up off the floor. So, yeah, those emotions can leave you flat on the floor. Does it mean that she's absolutely cured as she's gone through things? No, but it means that she has the tools and the ability now to move quicker through that session than she ever did before. And she'll do what she can, growing that capacity and knowing she can expand it a little bit more. So it's less and less over time.
That was so wonderful that you were able to counsel her on two different levels. And just that when you noticed that you weren't hearing from her, just to intuitively reach out to her, it was the perfect time.
Yes, my own psychic abilities picks up when I work with someone very closely like that. As I'm sure I'm seeing everybody else go, yes, yeah. But you get that intuition or that hit, and sometimes I just get a vision of, okay, I need to either just call her or reach out.
Just lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And how about you, Denise? Do you have something in particular, a powerful story that you can share with us about transformation?
Yeah, I was working with a gentleman and helping him work through his stuff. And he'd asked me, he'd spoken to his daughter and asked me because she was doing a test. She wanted to become a pilot and she failed and she'd failed a couple of times and she had one last chance. So he asked if I could speak with her and see what's coming up for her. And yeah, through it, it was interesting because my method is that, and I'm sure it's all with you ladies as well, and any healers, is that we know that the anger or the anxiety is the discomfort, and we're not, it's the discomfort on everything underneath it. So we only know how to act out in rage because we don't know what's going on deeper down. And it was really interesting because I think she was 19 at the time, a young girl. As we think we're full of life, we're doing everything we want to do, but it's amazing how we stop ourselves from doing stuff because we think we have to be this way or that way. And as we were going along and going through the threads, I love to take people down to the thread, to the core of where their emotions are really trapped. And hers was a real sadness. Hers was anger and sadness that she couldn't have what she wanted. And it's okay, so let's follow that thread down to when you first remembered when you couldn't have what you wanted. And finding that at such a young age, and it wasn't an unpleasant interaction at that age. And I always say it's not about the what do you call it, the event, like the soldier you were talking about. It's not about the event, it's always about the emotions I never had the opportunity to express at the time. So finding that at the core of it, and then her realizing, oh, it's happened here in my life. Oh, I can see it here. And so it unfolds from there, and showing her that she's taken on the belief of somebody else's and owned that for herself, and then said, I can't have that. And all her emotions that are attached to that follow her out throughout her life. And for her to be able to see that, and I suppose take responsibility of that for herself as well, that I've carried that notion. I have carried that belief for myself, and it's really not true, because it isn't. It's not my truth, it was somebody else's. So being able to give that back and go, okay, so now what do I want? And the next week, I think I was working with her for about 3 weeks, and then she went and had a test, and she did it easily. And now she flies all over Australia, in outback Australia, because that's what she wanted to do, in a tiny 12-seater plane. Not my thing, but beautiful. So, and I see pictures that she takes, and it's just so beautiful to see, and that we can let go of a belief that was never ours. But as we are children, the expectation is that everyone else knows more than me, so I've got to believe what they say. So I think it was just a beautiful outcome for her at such a young age, and her to be able to have the tools to do that in every part of her life. And because most of us, like myself, I'm a grandmother, so myself, I never knew this when I was younger. So all that trauma some of us are carrying still into our older years and to see her, it was just so beautiful. It just really opened me up to think that she's changing generations now. And that's what happens. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because, when a lot of us, when we're children, we're imprinted on the things that are happening with us. And then, of course, the subconscious mind believes that it's keeping us safe by keeping us in that same kind of pattern over and over again. I love your story because she was able to fly after her sessions with you, literally and figuratively as well. Yeah, so thanks so much. And so thanks everybody so far. I really love these answers. And then just another question, because when we release trapped emotions, our clients that come to us, most of them are already ready for some kind of healing modality that we offer. But to the people who are skeptical and who don't really say they want to stay away from all the woo stuff, it can seem very abstract to a lot of people. So, how would you explain the process to someone who's skeptical or unfamiliar with energy healing? Because I know we all explain things just a little differently with our own little flair and our own compassion. So, I would love to hear from each one of us now. How would we go ahead and describe the process to someone who's skeptical? So, Tawana, we'll start with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. What I do whenever I'm in a meeting with someone new, especially if they're new to energy work, is I tell them I have a cheat code, and it's being a psychic medium. So whatever you don't tell me, I'm going to hear it anyway. And then we go into how many years, not, and I'm not knocking, therapy works for some people, so I'm not knocking that at all. But how many years did you spend in therapy? And how many weeks have you spent with me? Or how many weeks will you give yourself with me? Because what therapy could not do, at least I know in my own life, in 37 years, one RTT hypnotherapy session did. And I was blown away, completely blown away. So I share that. I share it openly with anyone who comes to me with any hesitancy about the woo stuff, when I bring out my cards and things. But I share that with them, that if I had the money and the co-pays and the money that I spent in the cyclic door, the rotating door of the American therapy system, can't speak for any other country, I'd be a multimillionaire right now. I'd probably be on a yacht somewhere, chilling out in some blue water with some lobster. But once I opened my mind enough, when that friend called me, it was right after I tried taking my life. And one of my best friends called me and she says, I met this lady and she does something called RTT hypnotherapy. We'll pay for it. Are you open? And it's what did I have to lose at that point? And that 4-hour session cleared more trauma than 30 years of therapy. So I share that story very openly because, again, I'm not knocking therapy. It has its place. But some of us get to a space with trauma to where it's like talking isn't enough, the worksheets aren't enough, the books that you gave me to read aren't enough, because you're not giving me books like The Body Keeps Score, The Emotion Code, The Courage to Heal. You're not giving me books and healing modalities like that, things that would actually help me. You're giving me these small things so that you can make sure I land back in your office the next week with the same problem, and we're going to talk about the same problem over and over again. I share my personal story about finally opening my mind to energy healing, and man, I've taken off since. Everything is energy, everything's about energy. I can see energy, I can move energy. So I love it, big advocate for it, and that's how I explain it.
That's really beautiful. And to be sharing personal stories is fantastic. And just from listening to you now, you're very passionate about what it is that you do. And it really shows through as you're explaining energy healing. I'm sure to your clients, they will see it too. It just, the more you talk about it, you just light up. It's beautiful. You can see your passion for it. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. And then how about you, Michelle, when you have to talk to someone who might be skeptical, what kind of stories or structure do you
Yeah.
give to them?
I start with the personal piece too, because I think that is the why people come to us, is that vibrational match, right? Like what it is they're searching for. And that is a big piece of it. By the way, Tawana, I got a book for you. You can give it to all your clients. It is me in a box. It
Oh, that's
answers that
great.
question, because this is the problem, right? Like when we just work with the mind and we think we can mind hack ourselves and just think our way out of the box. If we could do that, we would have already done it. So but we need to bring the mind with us. And so that's where I think energy work brings in this ability to, it's not about just then hacking the body and hardwiring the nervous system. We can do that too. I can jumpstart the nervous system and force it over to where I want. I can get in a nice bath and kick it over here. So it's not about that. It's about bringing the body with. And it's also not about just going into the all is good, all is one, kumbaya, whatever, because no, we need fierce boundaries. Like we need to have that ability to stand in our power and in our knowing. Compassionate, sure, but strong, right?
Right.
That is that mix that comes together. Once we have those things and we've befriended the mind and we've started to bring the body along as a beautiful messenger and guide, and we're asking our heart to gain that space and that spaciousness that Leslie was talking about before, that's when we can start cooking with grace, right? And because it's all energy, our body wants to naturally move towards that's what it is going to help it, and wants to naturally move away from that which doesn't. But it gets switched. The polarities get flipped. That's what trauma does in our body. It flips our polarity, it kinks the hose, it makes a yes a no a yes. It freezes us up, and we are like, I don't know what frantic energy just running around. The vortex is all over the place, like where we're like, and I'm good. And one person looks at you like that, just unzips you. And so one of the things I just do is I was like, hey, kinesiology, hold out your arm. And I go, just meet my pressure. And then I go, and they can't do it. And they go, what? And I'm like, hold on, let me just put you back together. And I do it again. And they're like, how did you do that? I was like, your body is electricity. If I short you out like a old school Christmas thing, then you can't hold that muscle. You can't. And they're like, try again. I wasn't ready. And I'm like, okay, let's try again. I was like, I know, eat an energy message. I can do this for all the meridians. I got a test for every single one of them. Which one do you want? You want spleen? You want, and sometimes we'll go through all of them. And then I'm like, and your body is a pendulum too. Just stand there and tell me that your name is Timmy too. And all of a sudden they start to go backwards. And I'm like, that's the power of your body. That's the power of your messenger. Now imagine that your body wants to reach. It wants to raise its hand. It has a question. It has a concern. It has something that's excited about that it wants to share. Now imagine you have to stop that because the environment around you is not okay. That energy of that reach has to go somewhere. The energy of, I want to reach for a hug and have joy, that energy has to go somewhere. It gets lodged all over in our body, little tic tacs all over the place. And every single one of those, the body has to hold it. It takes energy to hold it there. So then it has to start shaming it and blaming it and making you feel wrong for wanting to raise your hand and ask a question, to want to reach out towards a friend, to be vulnerable, to be open, to be in connection. These natural things that our body is doing to help us meet our needs, our wants, our desires, our dreams. All that energy has to go somewhere. It goes into our body and it's kinks in our hose, tons of energy shorts all over the place. And you don't have to believe my psychic abilities or intuitive abilities to do it. All you got to do is tune into your own body. So I love teaching self-testing because then they're not believing me as the medium. They can't deny that their body about knocked them into the wall, or that their yes is reversed. When they say yes to something, their body actually moves away because it thinks it's bad. It thinks it's going to get hurt. It thinks it's going to get taken away, something. And so that's where I start. I don't try to convince them of anything. I just say, hey, look, here's my experience. Do you want to try it? And when they say that doesn't work, like back in the day with the horse thing, and somebody say, oh, it's that horse. I'm like, great, I got 13. How many you want to try? They would like literally tag team out. Another one would come in, same exact conversation. And I'd be like, how do they do that? And they'd be like, you've taught these horses how to do that. And I was like, no, it's all energy. They just literally read you and respond the only way your system will. And they're each different individual horses, but they're all going to respond that way because there is a common denominator here. And it's not to shame the person, it's to help to bring awareness, to help start the dialogue, the conversation as to what is that tic-tac? Why does it think it's not okay to raise the hand and ask a question or concern and to keep moving in there? So that's where I like to start.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Just to give them the kinesiology they can show for themselves. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And then how about you, Leslie? How do you explain woo to people?
I don't necessarily.
Okay.
If my speeches that I use, inspirational motivation, is possibilities outside the box. When I work with soul-led entrepreneurs, they already know that there's a possibility out there. Because one of the reasons that they're so good at what they do is because they broaden their horizons, because there's got to be some other way to do this. I can achieve this and I can move forward. But what happens when you're not even voicing your true desire? You are pinching off a part of yourself, and it's not mindset per se, but it's how do you change something? How do you shift your, not just your visions, your hearing, how you feel, everything that's deep inside. It is about experiencing something. And when a client comes and I ask, what brings you here today? that what brings them is what opens up the conversation. When I send out information and that I want your full name, I want your birth date, your time of birth, and your birthplace, I don't tell them why I want it. But then I also don't tell them what the findings were necessarily in that, except as we go on. That's a way of, just like the kinesiology, you're discovering through what they're telling you, here's patterns. And how did you know that? I don't necessarily know because psychically I picked up on your energy or something. I'm not telling them necessarily that because it's not about me in all of that. It is about their discovery. It is about their inner guidance and their own inner wisdom, that voice that they've heard, that nudge, that knowing that's happened. Ah, you invested enough in yourself through the years to listen to some of that inner gut feeling, that inner knowing, then you have already that the unseen force is with you. It is sometimes using different language that is going to approach them too, because I know I can get real abstract in what I've done through the years. So I'm not going to come off. I love that both of these other ladies had things that here's really something very tangible, because that's what it brings it back down to, is the tangible. Do I give examples at times when they say, oh, yeah, if it's appropriate for them to hear how that's understood? But sometimes it's just, tell me more about that. I'm so curious. What other possibility could have been there? What happened a few different way? Because life isn't about the limitations. It's about the unlimited part of it. And that's tapping into that. And yeah, it's messy. You're going to invest in yourself. It's going to be ups, downs, messy. And if you really want to go for this, doesn't matter what the tool is, you'll be ready. It's how you resonate, how you lean forward. That's what I look for in someone. Are you leaning in? Are you really curious yourself to how's this work? How can this be something for me? Then you're ready. You're ready to move forward in it.
That's
You made the
amazing.
commitment. You got that burning desire. Let's go.
Yeah, you point out their accountability and encourage them to remain accountable. Excellent, excellent. I love that, how that you flow in like that, not forceful in any way, shape, or form. You just ease right into it. Fantastic. Not that any of us are forceful at all either. And yeah, so thanks so much for sharing that piece. And then how about you, Denise? Any specific, how would you speak to someone who may be skeptical or unfamiliar with energy healing?
Yeah, I feel that everybody's different, and I love all of what you have all had to say. It's so beautiful. And I suppose when coming up with somebody or someone asking the questions, because usually it's the usual question, oh, what do you do? So you say what you do and they go, oh, okay. So it's okay, we start the conversation and it's very much seeing where they're at. Because you can overwhelm somebody or underwhelm somebody. So it's really meeting them where they're at and allowing them to, I suppose, investigate. Because that's what it's about. It's because I'm all about people who are in discomfort in their life. Are they willing to take the responsibility of that for themselves? Because initially that's what we are doing. We're taking, like all of us here have initially taken responsibility of seeing ourselves. What is the discomfort in me? What is the emotions that I need to look at? It's that really taking that responsibility of myself. And I really love to lean into the asking myself the questions, because usually we're always people who are in discomfort. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I'm not happy in my life. I don't know what am I supposed to be doing, because they're so lost. They're so outside of themselves that they don't even know what they want. So it's a matter of holding that space and seeing where they're at to be able to give them clear guidance without giving guidance on a general conversation, and allowing them to see for themselves, and just giving that it's not even a push. It's if they're curious, people will see. And it's when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. That's always the case. And we might talk to someone and they go, nah, not for me. But 5 years later, they come back, I remember talking to you. So they've gone through stuff. Now I'm ready to do it. So it's not about trying to throw it onto them. It's about planting the seeds of the possibilities that are there for them. They might not, they'll take the seed, but they might not plant it there and then. They might just shuffle the seed in their hand for a while and keep coming back to it, and then decide, I'm going to plant it today. I need somebody. I'm ready. And so that's where their growth begins. So, I just love sharing the simplicity of it, because energy is energy. And I always bring it back to children. Watch toddlers, because they're unmarked at that time. They don't have the mask. They don't have the protection that they've started putting on themselves. They're just open, feeling little human beings. And they'll be upset and throw a tantrum, what we think is a tantrum, but all they're doing is feeling their emotions. And they feel it, and then all of a sudden they get up and they go and play again. They're as happy as can be. And they're the teachers for us, and we stop. We don't look at that. So it's about allowing ourselves to be that childlike again and really feel everything. And it is such a bodily experience, because we've got to come into our body and unravel it and let it fall out in whatever manner it needs to. Yeah, so
That's beautiful.
it's just planting seeds.
Yeah, absolutely. Encouraging their own curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it really, go ahead.
It's just we learned to not take responsibility for ourselves. We learned for the world to be responsible for us. So this is where all the discomfort in our life comes from, is we're saying it's because they told me to, or because I had to do it this way. And we're not coming back and saying, like Michelle was saying, putting my hand up and going, no, I don't want to do that. But we're not taught to do that. Even in school, we're not taught to do that. We still get rejected when we put our hand up in school. Yeah. So it's really coming back and really taking responsibility of ourselves. And what does that look like? Loving ourselves unconditionally. Because no one's going to give me the love that I can have or need or want, because I've got to give that to myself. Because no one else knows what love feels like except for me.
Beautiful. Really good. I want to thank everybody here, all of us, for contributing. It's been just a wonderful hour to spend with you ladies. And I'm going to welcome Sophia back into the room now. Sophia, are you there?
Absolutely, Sheila. This has been an incredible conversation, and I'd like to thank you for facilitating it, and also for Tawana and Leslie and Michelle and Denise for joining us. I've been really intrigued by everything that you've been saying, and for everyone who is watching us, do click on the links below and reach out to these amazing women. All their details are below the video, so do that. And of course, while you're there, check out Sacred You, it's a letter u.love. Come and join us for free, where you get to experience Tawana. If I can just call on Tawana very quickly, because Tawana is the beautiful host of the Psychic Development Essence Collective, the Psychic Essence Collective tribe. Tell us quickly about that, Tawana. What's it all about?
So the Psychic Essence Collective is all things woo. We have taught everything from the basics of psychic protection, and I went through that for 10 weeks because I wanted to drill it in. Can't just go out playing in the spirit realm with dead people and not know how to protect yourself in different ways. But we learn Oracle, we learn Tarot, we learn Ancestry, we learn building your ancestors' altar. How do you find your spirit guides? All of these wonderful psychic based things we learned are gifts, what their names are. People didn't realize, oh, so I've been hearing stuff that means clairaudient? That
Yeah.
means I'm psychic. Yes, it does. So, yes, we do all of that in the Psychic Essence Collective. And thank you so much, Sophia.
And thank you for being a wonderful host. And again, for everyone who is watching, come and join us. You can join us for free. So it's sacredyou.love/join free. Again, click on the links below and you get to view Tawana's tribe, plus all of our other tribes, plus all of our panel discussions and everything else we're offering. And coming soon is our wisdom circle. So thank you. Sheila, before we wrap up, I want to honor you for being a facilitator for today. And I'd like you to share your wisdom and your voice, because I know you haven't had a big chance to share that. And for you, tell us about what it means to break free and to reclaim our pieces using the emotion codes.
I think, thank you very much, Sophia. I think using the emotion code is like a map, really, to point to something. I have very specific examples. And then when they hear, oh, it was that day when I was walking to school when I was 4 years old. Oh, that makes sense. I never thought about that since. And now that you've pointed it out, I can see how I can adjust that. When we find a trapped emotion, when the clients that I work with, I then take them through a kind of a meditation hypnosis practice at the end where they connect with that person and that younger version of them, and to talk to that younger version and tell them all of the things that are going to happen from that day forward, and some of the good things too, and to really reconnect with that person so that, the past can merge with you, and then, that smaller version then lives in your heart. And so that to make it really easy for them to connect with the next time they notice a particular emotion coming up, that they'll be able to know where it's coming from and what they can do about it if they choose.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And I totally agree. I said for everyone, and if I can share very quickly again, for anyone who's watching, reach out to these women. They are amazing. They are powerful. The emotion code and everything else helps so much. For me, very quickly, I realized that I was holding resentment in my shins from when I was 13 years old. And that is all through going through the emotion code. So again, I want to honor everyone for giving up an hour plus of your time, and it has been an honor that we've been able to host this, and we will see everyone who's watching us again next time. Coming up next week is our beautiful Denise, who's facilitating her first panel on who is the driver's seat of your life. Stay tuned for that one and take care.